Hey there, let's take a look how I build my DogLeg rig in Control Rig. So the way I do it is a simple IK, two-bone IK for the top part, and then I'm using an aim from the IK to the thigh to get the last part moving as well. And then I have a roll control on top of it to drive this bone if needed. All right, so let's take a look at how I did it. In this graph, I only built the IK control right here. I created a variable which is the 4 bones inside my chain. So in this case here, it would be the thigh, calf, ankle, and foot of that leg. So I spawn an IK at the location of the last bone of the chain. I put that inside a variable, and then I spawn the ball vector at the location of the second bone, so indexed 1, which is the knee, and then just add an offset in Y, and I'll also store that inside a variable. So the next step is to build the roll control. So let's get into that. Let's make some space. And from here, the first things we're going to do is we're going to spawn a null, and we're going to parent it under the IK control, and we're going to name it roll. So if I show you the nulls now, and I zoom on this part of the rig, you see that I have a null now underneath my IK control. Excellent. Let's put that inside the variable immediately. This is going to be our roll null. And here we're going to then have another child, which is going to be the roll control that I was testing with earlier. So we're going to call that roll as well. And it can be just a rotator because we don't need the translation for this control. So let me just quickly change the shape to be a half circle. And then, yeah, and then we'll adjust things a little later. Cool. And then we're going to build a last null, which is going to be the effector of the IK. Like I said, my first 2 bones up here are going to be my IK, and so my effector is right here. So I want to add a null that is going to be used as the effector for that IK chain. So this is going to be called my effector, and it's a child of the roll control. But the location should be this third bone, so 0, 1, 2, index 2 of the chain. So I'm going to get my bones at index 2, and then I press 1 to get a transform node and plug that inside my effector and go to global space. So now you can see my effector null is where it should be, and it's parented underneath my controls. Excellent. Let's go to the forward solve, and let's build this simple IK. So if I get the basic IK node, I need to pass my 3 bones. So we're going to get the bones, and we're going to get the first 3 of the list. So index 0, 1, 1, and 2. I'm going to plug all that inside my IK. Excellent. For the effector, well, we said that it should be this effector null that I didn't put inside the variable. So let's do that right now. Promote to variable. And then I'm going to rename that to effector null. Excellent. So I can grab this guy and get the transform, pressing 1 for the shortcut. And then transform goes inside the effector. The pole vector, well, we do have a pole vector, so I can just use that as well directly. It's going to be the location of the pole vector, not the direction. And then I need to set that to 0 since I want the location at the exact location of the pole vector. All right, let's plug this and see what happens. My axes are flipped. The secondary axis in my case is -1 in Y. And if I change that, I've got my IK working. So already kind of looks like a leg, though you can see that if I pull the leg, it keeps this orientation here, which is not really nice for animation. So I want to orient that, and like I said, the trick I'm using is I have this pointing always to the side. So let's give that a try. We have this roll null, and we're going to set the rotation of that null. Oops, sorry, I keep clicking the wrong one. Get the null and set the transform on it. And because it's only the rotation that we care about, I can set that to a quaternion, and that's going to set only the rotation. So I want that to aim from the IK to the thigh. So we're going to use an aim mass node. And the input transform is going to be my IK control. So I can grab this, press 1 for get transform, and then put that inside my input transform. And the target is going to be the thigh, which is my first bone, so index 0 in my list. And I can grab this. I only need the translation this time, and I can plug that right there. Let's make some room bringing this down. And for the secondary axis, well, we can also use our pole vector. So I can plug that right here, and it's going to be this location, and then I can set that to 0. So now we only need the rotation, and if I set that here and plug that right there, so my axes are probably wrong. Oh no, it's because I need to do the same at rest. I need to have the same aim math when I'm building the chain. So um, let's do that quickly. I'm just going to copy all this and go to the construction event, and then paste that where I spawn my roll null for the first time. I'm going to plug that right here, and I'm going to change that to global space now. And you can see that my chain is now back to how it should be. And you can see that I do have this rotation. Oh, I forgot to fix something. You can see that the foot is rotating with the chain, which is not what I want. So if I go to the forward solve after the IK, I can also grab the last bone of my chain. So I can do index -1 and pull from here, press 2 to get the set transform node. And I want that to match my IK transform. So I have it here. I'm going to copy that, get the IK transform, and match this bone to this IK transform. So now you see that if I move this around, the foot is now following the IK properly, which is what I wanted. Cool, and I can already see that I have now this aim. So this null is aiming always at the thigh, which is giving me this orientation that I wanted. It's not quite done yet. If I pull, first of all, let's add the stretch to the chain. So maybe 1.5, enable stretch. So if I stretch the leg, you can see that I still have an angle here. Maybe if I pull from here, I still have an angle. So I would like to get rid of this angle. And this is the default angle there is in the chain. So this bone is pointing in this direction, and I want it to point at my thigh. So we're going to calculate what is this original angle, and we're going to remove it as we stretch the leg. So how do we calculate the original angle? Let's go back to our construction graph, since it's something that we only need to do once. And I'm going to compute this vector from the IK to the thigh and from the IK to the effector. So let's grab the transform of the IK. Let's grab the transform of the thigh bone, and I'm just going to do a subtract. So a subtract from the thigh to the IK, and I'm just going to pull that down over here. So that's going to be my first vector, my first direction from here to the thigh. And then I want the same from the IK to the effector. So I'm going to do another subtract, but this time I'm going to grab my effector null, and I'm going to grab the transform and the translation of that effector. So now I have my two directions, and I can just use the angle between node that is going to give me the angle between those between the direction from the IK to the thigh, from the direction from the IK to the effector. And I'm going to store that inside a variable because I'm going to use that later. So if I plug that right here, I'm going to rename this variable init angle. And just already, if I go here, where I have my aim math, now if we add this rotation, so the way you do it is you do a make absolute. This becomes the parent orientation, and I'm gonna add this orientation on top of it. So here I can enter another rotation, which I'm gonna do uh, from axis angle. From axis angle. The axis, well, if we look at our null that we are going to rotate, this is the null, this is the y-axis, so I'm going to set it to 0, 1, 0. And the angle, well, if we grab the init angle and plug that right here, well, right now it doubled the angle, so if we negate this value, now the end of the leg is always pointing at the thigh. Okay, so this is what I want, but I only want that to happen when I stretch the leg, not at rest. So the way we're going to do it is we're going to multiply this value by a factor so that when it's at 1, it is pointing straight, but when it's at 0, it is at rest pose. So how are we going to calculate this factor? Well, we want to get the distance, the initial distance between the IK and the thigh, and compare it to the distance which would be fully stretched, which would be the length of the chain. So let's compute those two values. First of all, we want to compute the initial distance between the IK and the thigh. And if you look at here, we are already creating the vector that goes from the IK to the thigh. So all we need really is the length of that vector. So here we have length vector, and we're going to put that inside another variable. So that's going to be the initial distance. And now the last thing I need is the length of the chain, all the bones. So the length of all those bones together would give me my maximum distance, my stretch distance. So to do that, I created a function already just to save a little bit of time. I can get into it in a minute, so I just need to pass my bones, and this is returning me the length of the chain. So I can also put that in a variable, and I'm going to name that chain length. Oh, I need to plug this, otherwise it's not working properly. If I go inside this function very quickly, what you can see is I loop over the items. If it's the first one, I do nothing. I skip it because what I want to do is I want to get the distance with the previous bone. So the first bone doesn't have a previous bone, so I skip this one. But then I grab the previous bone, I take a look at that translation, get the distance between them. We're using the distance between node, and I'm adding that to an array. When I'm done, when this is completed, I get this array, I get the sum of all the floats inside this array, and I return that, which is giving me the total length of my chain. Okay, so we have now that as a variable. Sorry. We now can use that as a factor. So how are we going to do that? Well, we have our initial distance, and we have our maximum distance, which is the length of the chain. So we can remap that. So we're going to use the remap node, and the initial distance is going to be the source minimum, and the chain length is going to be the source maximum. The value being, well, the current distance between the two. So if I go back to my construction graph and grab these two, so this is my thigh bone position and my IK control position, and I can get a distance between here as well. And I will plug that as the current value. So now this remap, what it's doing is that it's taking the current distance, and it's remapping the value from the minimum initial distance to the maximum, the chain length, and it's remapping that to a 0, 1 value. So now if I plug that right here, what we should see is that when I pull, I get this effect of the leg straighten up. If I pull too far though, it keeps going on, so I want to make sure that I clamp it. And with that, I get the setup that I did for the dog on that rig. Thank you.